everyone, I'm Dan Albers, and welcome here to This Week in Anderson on USPN Sports. And as always, joining me is my co-host Steve Ellis. And Steve, this next guest we've been trying to get on for a while. We just it's been timing it up in the season and everything. And I'm glad that we're getting him now before the season gets ready to get started here. So we have Sam Miller. Excited to talk to him not only about his career at Anderson, but also get into about his dad and his grandfather and the history of Anderson High School with that family.
Well, just the name alone, Miller, is the same 1-1 with Anderson. I mean, it goes back probably going on 50 plus years, and the tradition, as they say, continues. And Sam has done an unbelievable job. I helped coach Sam when he was in high school, so I feel a little old at this point here. But great athlete, great player in soccer. Obviously, we're going to get to that, and a great basketball player. But then he's gone on to be a great coach as well. Right. And like I said, just comes from a great family, a royalty of family. We could talk about that for another podcast of who are the big families. And I mean, think about his dad and his grandpa being involved in Anderson. I mean, that's got to cover a lot. Well, almost as probably more than anybody. You talk about Charles Brown.
I was going to say it's either the Browns or the Millers. Right. I mean, that's right. We're going to be with that.
And then you got to throw Andy Wolf in there somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So I said that's joining us is Sam Miller. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I've watched plenty of these, so I'm really excited to be with you guys tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's kind of get started how we always do this, and let's talk about your growing up, the days of Anderson. I mean, we were kind of talking before we went on air about being that little kid with your dad and then your grandpa and all that, but just talk a little bit about what it was like growing up in Anderson, and then also what side of Anderson you lived on.
Yeah, so I actually was born, my family lived in Mount Washington for 1 year before we moved, and my parents have been in the same house now for 39 years.
That yellow house right there on
Asbury
right by Woodruff.
Yep, so it's gone through a number of different kind of changes and revamps, but yeah, they've loved that space, and for me it was like the perfect space because they had a yard that when I was growing up, all the Fox Trail boys would come, and we would play home run derby. It was backyard football. We put in a basket, and so it was like my dream spot as an athlete growing up. But I was an Air Apple.
Yes. See, finally,
this side.
I was an Air Apple too. Yes, not the Summit Tigers thing. Oh, sorry, bees
or Stingers. I don't even know what we were.
I did a year of kindergarten in Summit though when they were revamping the kindergarten at Air. So I did Summit, kindergarten, Air, and then junior high at Anderson when it was 7 through 12.
So you were in that group.
Yeah. So I actually enjoyed it because when you got there, the school spirit was unbelievable.
Crazy.
And so it was like, oh man, you're walking through the halls and you see Joe Sherrill, I think was a senior when I was in 7th grade, and these guys, and I was just like, man, like I've been watching, and you go, why? How can I get to be in that spot? So, so it was fun for me, but I had a lot of buddies that grew up not that far, and we used to ride our bikes everywhere. We'd ride to Air, shoot baskets. Ride, anywhere we could. I'd ride up to Anderson or run up to Anderson, and they had a kick wall, and I was kind of a gym rat growing up with 2 gym teachers as my parents, and so I was like, man, I got to get out of the house and go do something.
Did you say run up to Anderson, or did you say ride a bike? Because I don't think I could have run from your house to
he definitely. Well, so you were on the fringe of the internet and all the game toys and stuff like that, so you were still getting outside doing stuff.
Yeah, it was right when I think PlayStation hit it big, and so we would do some of that, but it was still like you were going to go to the pool, you were going to go play all summer long. I still try to beat that into my players. I'm like, if you're going to get better, you got to get outside over the summer.
Couldn't agree more.
Because you don't make yourself into a player just by showing up to practice.
So you said it started. So what year was that then that Nintendo started coming out? Because I'm just kind of thinking about that, because I knew my brother Timmy, who graduated in '95. I kind of remember him as a little kid playing that. So was that like the early
we all played it. I mean, we had Atari and stuff,
but we never were like obsessed.
I know, it just became an obsession.
Yeah, it was almost the easy way. Like you'd have a buddy that would have in their basement. You could be down there for hours.
Right.
Like I never felt like it overtook what we were trying to do.
Exactly.
Because we all wanted to play varsity and as many sports as possible, and like that was what people did at Anderson. It's like, I want to be that guy, that next guy.
So. You know, we've had some other guests on here, Sam, talking about being in the high school from 7th grade on. But I've never asked how all that worked. Not necessarily the sports part, as far as the schooling goes, because looking at the school now, so, I mean, like when we were there, it was just 9 through 12. But when you were there, how did they separate that? Like, where were you in the building?
So they had some 7th, 8th grade classes in the annex, which then became the school, which was still the school district building in the back.
Okay.
But they would have some classes out there, and then they'd have wings of the school that were, you know, primarily for those younger grades. So we didn't like mix in too much with the older kids outside of walking through the halls. But, you know, if you had a language or, you know, if you were in a higher math or something, you could be in with 9th grade and stuff. But like I said, there was 5 minutes in between classes. I think there's 4 now. I mean, there's a couple thousand kids, but I never felt like it was something that I go, oh man, I'm overwhelmed in here. I liked it.
Okay.
So,
yeah. You just, I mean, like you try to compare like my, like maybe your dad or some like my older brothers who were there when the Turpin wasn't around and how full it was.
Oh yeah.
You know, you think about that, and then they went away, and then the 7th grade went in there. So obviously they can handle it. Back to the 70s. That's right. So when you were growing up, Sam, you talk about playing outside and everything. What sports did you play when you were getting on teams, whether it be basketball, football, soccer, whatever you're playing?
Yeah, so I played about everything, and I liked about every sport. You know, kind of when I made decisions on what I was going to do. But I love baseball. I played for Bill Hayden in Midland in 3rd grade.
Wow. Nice.
And we had a great team of, it was like Joff Hensley who played at Turpin.
Sure,
we had like Brian Treffry who played football, Matt Davey. We had a lot of guys, Michael Hayden. So it was like a really good team of athletes like growing up. But that was like kind of a time commitment that I didn't want to do because I love basketball too, and so I probably started playing basketball at IHM, where I went to Sunday school and everything in 3rd grade, and played all the way through 6th grade, and then they had Park District, which I started doing 5th and 6th grade because a lot of the best athletes were. Like there was no AAU back then.
Right.
So it was like, all right, you're going to play in a community league. In the best league, I think 6th grade, we had a league that was like the best athletes in the township. It was like Ty Hall had one team. We had like the Turpin guys had another team. We had, I know Brent Rosser was on recently, but and Lauren Gruber. But Lauren Gruber and Kim Rosser, they had a team of girls that were the best athletes.
Oh, they talked about
So we played them. So it was like it was awesome because you had the best athletes in the township playing each other every Saturday morning.
That'd have been awesome to get to.
Yeah, it was so much fun, but it was good competitive games. Like now people, even when I coach travel soccer, like you go, oh, I got to travel so far. But if you have all the best athletes play against each other in the same area, like around here, you're going to have good games.
That's right.
But I played football in junior high, 7th grade.
Who's your coach?
Fred Woods.
Freddie Woods.
Really? How about that?
I'm kidding.
And then Mitch Grant.
Mitch Grant.
So they had us, and I liked football. It was just hard because I was playing tailback and strong safety, and I kind of go, I don't think I'm going to grow to the point that I could play college football because I wanted to be a college athlete and play beyond, and so, but I did that. I ran track in junior high. Loved track, but ultimately soccer was kind of something that I did all through, and it was like the perfect sport for me. But I loved every sport, really, and so the township gave really good options for that.
Yeah, that's just amazing, Freddie. That's the first time I heard Freddie Woods as a coach.
How about that?
That's some big stuff right there. Shout out to Freddie Woods.
All right, so you get into high school, and we're going to get into soccer in a minute, but I want to talk about basketball. All right, so you started playing. Did you play in the freshman freshman team your freshman year?
Yeah, all the 7th grade, and we had a lot of guys go nearly all the way through, or at least through 10th grade. But 7th grade year, all the way through, and then freshman year, we had a pretty good group, and then sophomore year, played for Coach Geesting, played for Coach Pitts, 7th grade and 9th grade year.
Okay.
Coach Matthews, 8th grade year.
Yep.
And we were a really good team. I think we won the league, and we were like 15-1. Really good group of guys. And then I didn't play my junior year to kind of concentrate on recruiting for soccer. But then I came back the following year for senior year, which was a great team. And,
well, let's talk about that. So who was on that team your senior year?
So we had Norwell at center. We had Patswell as point guard. We had Shoemaker, who we ended up being roommates my senior year in college.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
So Shoe was a great player, and then we had Impelazeri, and so we were usually 3 guards, but then you had Chris throw it into. I mean, we could score about any way. I felt like every game. We could run. We could do it in the half court. So that was a great team. And we lost the first game to St. X, and then we won 19 in a row.
But and I remember that because the football team had made it far in the playoffs, and so we had no scrimmages, and we had literally like a week to prepare for the St. X game, and we hung in there. I mean, I think any other time of the year we probably would have beat them, and so we lose that game, and Ryan Patswold's mom comes up to us coaches and says, "We're not going to lose the rest of the year," and we're like, "What?"
Sure enough,
and she was right, and it was an unbelievable team. But for you, Sam, I mean, taking a year off and coming back, I mean, just didn't miss a beat because just to prove what a great athlete he was, and how much he, continued to help and contribute, on the court and be a leader like that just speaks volumes, I think.
Well, we had winners in that team, and I mean, that starting 5 had 5 college athletes, and so there wasn't very many teams that could really deal with either our speed. We had size.
Yeah, Ty Hall too, right?
Well, Ty actually was injured, and I think if he would have played, I think we really even make a deeper run, because we lost in the tournament. But if Ty's playing, because that was our team in 8th grade, we had both those guys, Ty and Chris, playing, and they were almost unstoppable.
So that summer before, we do all the games and team camps in the summer, just rolled everyone, and that was with Ty. And everybody.
Was that the year that they lost Aiken in the tournament?
In the first round?
I think we ran foul trouble, and they were real athletic, and we just didn't shoot the ball well. And we were winning in the game. I think we were up double digits, and just then went cold, and some guys got, and if Ty's in the game too, I go, then you have another guy that can rebound the ball.
Sure.
And stuff. But, it was unfortunate, but I don't think it took away from what we did that year, because every game we went in, and there was only a handful that were maybe close. Beat Wynn-Woods twice, beat Mason
and they
twice.
were really good. And so was Mason. Mason was really good.
Well, Wynn-Woods was coming off of state finalist the year before.
With those 4 D1 guys.
Yeah, they had
DeForest Riley,
Robert Height.
Good call, Danny.
C.J. Anderson was playing that team.
Anderson.
So that showed how good of team we had.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
that's incredible. So let's get into the soccer now. I know you played obviously at Anderson. Talk about playing, and then I don't remember. And I'm sorry if I did. Was it your dad that was your coach, or who was your coach? I can't remember.
So I made varsity my freshman year when Frank Zukla was the coach, and that was his last year.
I forgot about Zook.
No way.
Yeah, I forgot that he was there.
Was he there for just a short time?
Yeah, it was only 2-3 years.
3-4 years.
Oh, was it?
I think right after Sully was there, and Zook took over, and that was another game I remember going to where they won a district championship in penalties over Moeller, and I was at that game as a 7th grader or something.
Oh, okay.
And then I played for him my freshman year, and then my dad came in and coached me the final 3 years that I was at Anderson.
Okay.
So
how was that? Playing for your dad. Because it's that I coach my son in sports, and you try not to, as a coach, get too hard on him, but not too lenient on him? So was that hard for you, or was it?
Well, he always told me he was going to coach me harder than anybody else, and the hard part was even times where like I do something right, it was like he just wanted to make sure that there are no favors.
Right.
And I think that it took me some time to kind of understand that, where he was going to make me as tough as possible, and I was better for it later on. It was hard, but like, I wouldn't have traded it, because I wouldn't have progressed to be the player that I was if I didn't kind of get that like tough love.
You were a hard-nosed player. You were very coachable, and you were skilled. So it was hard to yell at him.
Right. I mean, and how do you think your dad did? I mean, I'm sure your dad had to enjoy the heck out of that, coaching you, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I, as I said, I grew up as a gym rat, so I was going to his games. I mean, my dad has coached, and now he's my assistant, and he's coached for over 40 years, and he's won nearly 300 games as a head coach. And so I was going to his games, and I think it was fun. Like, it was stressful, but it was fun because he got to, and he had coached me on some teams before, but like when you do it in intense games, and then it's almost like, he's like drilled it into me, and then when it happens, it's like, you can't replace that like memory or moment where you're able to get that like kind of father-son thing. So I was grateful for him pushing me as hard as he did throughout my career.
It's awesome. Well, talk about some of those teams, like your last couple of years, because you guys are pretty good, if I remember.
Yeah, we kind of had to build it back up. We had a really good team my freshman year, and then we had a lot of seniors graduate. And so people didn't think we were going to be very good in my dad's first year, and I think we scored like 19 goals. It's like the lowest total, but we ended up winning a share of the league title on the last night, when we used to always play Terp in the last game of the season in soccer, and it was like the biggest game. And I used to love playing up in the stadium. Like the fans would be right on top of it, and it just made it like so much more fun.
I agree.
It was, and so I was like, I usually have my best games in like those types of games, and so they were on the start of their like 2-year run as Division II state championships back to back, but we tied them, so they were pretty upset because we didn't have the team to compete against them, and so we basically just defended for 80 minutes. And so they still talk about that game because they're like, you guys didn't even try to score, and it's like, well, we just need a tie for the share of the league title. So we could say that we shared the league title, and they were Division II state champions that year. So that was kind of a good memory. But then the final 2 years, we had good teams. We probably just didn't get over the hump in a couple like games. I think we lost in like a sectional final my senior year, but we had kind of like started that process of getting like guys back, playing all the time and like putting in a lot of effort to make Anderson soccer good.
Give us some names.
And I still play with some of them on Sunday mornings when I can, over 30s league, but I had Eric Schultz, who went on to play at Wilmington College. Brandon Bernhardt was a goalkeeper. Both were all city, all league type guys. He went to Wilmington to play. And Pelizero is a junior. So, and then he went on to play at NKU. And so we had a pretty good group of athletes that went and played. Kevin Zidron went on to play at Valpo, and so we started kind of getting guys back where it's like, hey, this is like we're going to put in a lot of hard work and take more pride in kind of what we're doing. So we had some good players and families that have been around the township for a while.
So when you're going through high school, I guess getting towards your junior and senior year, you started thinking about post high school and college and what you were going to do and what you wanted to do. It sounded like soccer was probably the direction you were heading, right? Yeah,
it was kind of, and basketball was similar, but it was like the perfect sport for me. It was like, and I loved all the sports, like I said, but I could kind of control the game in a way that I couldn't in some of the other sports, where I could use my mind all the time because I watched so much soccer. I could go in my backyard and work for like 3-4 hours and work at my game, and so I could influence the game more. And I didn't have to be 6'5", which is something that made a difference. I made myself into a better athlete, but in some of the sports, you go in basketball, you go, hey, if you're kind of height challenged, it's going to be harder as you go through. And football, you got to be able to take a pounding, and I just wasn't necessarily built that way. I could move and cover a lot of ground, run for a long time, so it worked out. So that's why my club team won back-to-back state championships my junior and senior year.
Nice.
And so that was the summer going into my junior year. That was kind of like when school started looking at me, and that was when I kind of started going, well, we were going to Tampa, we were going to Charlotte and Memphis, and so some of the travel was going to kind of impact I didn't want to miss basketball games and then kind of put them in a bind where, knowing as a coach, it's not easy if somebody's not there and, to work them in.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So my junior year, I focused on soccer and, got a decent amount of offers, but kind of the same as college football or basketball, like size still plays a huge part. And so my position, where they usually saw me as a defender, they say, well, I don't think he's like big enough, but I always played more as a midfield player, like sort of box to box, where I did the most running. So sometimes people didn't see me as that. So sometimes as we got further in the process, they go, I don't think I'm going to take him. Like Wisconsin and Charlotte had interest in me. Oakland and Temple, like some schools up east, but UC was one that I'd been to a number of their games and like growing up and all sports, and so it was a place that I really had interest in, and so that kind of worked its way to where I made that decision to go there.
So let's talk about that. So that, when did you decide that? And then the second question would be, just talk about your career at UC.
Yeah, so I actually went on a visit after one of our basketball games. We play a Friday night, and then I went down, and my host was Mike Vessels, who played at Turpin.
Sure.
So Mike, it was really funny, because then you get to college and you're kind of like, all right, so that rivalry's done. Like, so it's like, that's funny. So it's like, all right, so if you can help us win here, I don't care what happened in high school, which is the fun part of college, just because when you have guys like that, like just all about winning, and I could kind of sense that when I hung out with the guys. And I was like, I want to go here. And so I actually made that decision like the night before signing day. So I talked to Coach Days, and I think he was still like a little bit on the fence of how I was going to do, but my dad's like, we had a really good club team, and we were like a top 5 team in the country, and we had 2 guys go to play at Indiana, who has won 7 national championships. We had 2 guys go to Ohio State, who ended up losing in the national final the year after. So like, we had 11 Division I players in my club team.
Wow.
Dang. So it was like, my dad was always really good at saying, like, you don't have to take a backseat to anybody when it comes to who you've played and like what you should kind of believe you can do. And so at UC, just once I got there, I loved it, because it used to be on quarters. So now they're on semesters, but when we were there, we got to preseason, and you had a month just to concentrate on soccer. It was like you were a pro. So you didn't have any school. And it was the greatest, because like getting to know a bunch of those guys, we had some really good players, really talented players from all over the world in our team. And I didn't think I was going to play that much that year, because they had a very veteran team that was coming off of losing in like the Conference USA championship game the year before. So I'm like, I'll work myself in. And then they had one of the guys get hurt, and they moved me into sort of what became a more natural position in midfield, and And from there, it was just my fitness helped, where I could play long stretches.
Yep.
I just said, like, I usually would try to take on as much knowledge as I could, and so we had a really good team that year at the start, and it kind of drove my interest even more. Where I didn't concentrate on enough school for a while, because I was like I know what I want to do the rest of my life.
Yes.
Like, somehow I got to be involved in soccer.
There you go.
Because I had the captain of our team, Tim Brown, was from New Zealand. He was actually the vice captain of New Zealand's 2010 World Cup team.
Wow. How about that?
He actually broke his collarbone in a warm-up game right before the World Cup, or else he would have been playing in it.
Gosh.
And so he founded, unbelievable guy. He founded the company Allbirds, the shoes, if you ever, and so we had guys that were like really, really solid people, and so, like, from there, we were like around a top 20 team for all 4 years that I was there, where we won Conference USA regular season championship, and then got at-large bid to the NCAA tournament.
Nice.
My freshman year, and we lost to Kentucky in penalties down at their place. And then we played really good schools. That was the other part. We traveled. We went to a lot of places, and so we were playing, St. Louis. We beat them twice, and we'd never beaten them, and they're like 13-time national champion.
Wow.
And so we beat them both times that we played them. And at the old stadium, which it used to be Myers Field at UC, that they turned into Gettler, which that has a track, we beat them there, and then like there were no like the stands, you used to like just sit around the the field, and so everybody just rushed the field, and
that's cool.
A bunch of people. So it was pretty fun. We beat Notre Dame both times.
Nice.
They were top 15.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so our team, we beat UConn, who was number 1 in the country my junior year at home.
That's a great feeling.
So we had a good team.
Did you play midfield?
Yeah. So I was fortunate where my freshman year, I think I started 12 out of 20 games, played in all of them. And then I actually scored the game winner up at Marquette to win the Conference USA regular season title.
That's cool.
Nicely done.
So I hadn't scored all year, and I'd had some chances, and I was like, man, I don't know when it's going to happen.
Get on the board.
And it was freezing. It was like 15 degrees.
Oh, great.
Up there right on the river in Milwaukee, and my parents had made the trip, and they're like, I don't know how much I'm going to play this game. And I scored.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
they got to see that.
Yeah. So we ended up winning the first Big East regular season championship in UC history my senior year.
Dang, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we lost in a tournament to Northwestern, didn't play our best game, but I was just really fortunate to play with a lot of really good players, and I got to play in every single match in my college career. Start, I think it was like 68 out of 77.
That's awesome.
Matches.
All he does is win, Danny. All he does is win. So, all right, so Sam, let me ask you a question, because now you're coaching in high school, and we're going to get to that. From playing in high school and then playing in college, what would you say is a big difference?
I think a lot of people list it. I mean, the speed of the game is always going to increase.
Sure.
The size of the athletes, it's just amazing. Like when you start going and you go, all right, so now 15 to 18, there's a pretty good size increase, but then you go 18 to 22 and you're playing against like men. And you go like, I think my freshman year when I was playing varsity, I was like 120 pounds, like 5'7", 120 pounds, and then got to like where you put on like 40, 45 pounds or something by your senior year. But then you go, okay, you get to freshman year in college, and then you're going, all right, I'm going up against somebody that's like been in a college weight room for 3-4 years, not a high school weight room, but a college weight room. And we had a really good strength coach. Curtis Bostic was our strength coach.
Really?
Is that right?
Oh, I mean, he I would give a lot to go back and be in that type of shape that he put us through like hell. But
I bet.
I mean, he was
Look
unbelievable.
At him. How jacked he is.
He's unbelievable athlete. But like he was working us over, and so that was part of our thing. A lot of teams weren't doing that at the time in soccer.
Yeah.
So we had some guys that were like absolutely put together that could go out and play against anybody. But I think that was the difference. Like in high school, in any sport, you could just go, oh, that guy's just like pretty big.
Yeah,
like he's just grown.
Right.
College, you're going, that guy is made himself into like the best athlete that he can be, and that's like everybody on the field. So I think that part, and then just the amount of time that you have to put in, as a college coach, like it's not just showing up for practice.
Nope.
It's like weights at 7, run after, then go to, in the winter time, 4 or 5 days a week. And then in the season, you're going, all right, well, you got film Monday for an hour. Then you go train for 2. Got study tables for 2 or 3, and practice. Like, so it's a job. Like Division I's no joke.
That's right.
Or any college sport. But it's some guys don't want to do that. And I think that was always helpful to me because I wanted that. I was like, I love all pieces of that. Right. So some guys would have to transfer, or they go, man, coach is on my case all the time or something. I'm like, watching film. I go, like, I don't care. Like, I could be in class. I want to be watching film. I just got to ask a quick question about the film. Was it, VH, back in the day when Steve, I think we saw the reel to reel, I think still back then. It was VHS the first.
Nice.
The first 2 years, or you had to transfer it over to DVD. So we had a really good equipment manager who's still at UC, the Friggy family. They've been at UC for a long time. They're awesome, and he was our student manager at the time. But that's funny. But I mean, I think what everybody else has said is just like the speed of the game and the intensity of the match is just can't really compare to high school.
I can only imagine. Soccer.
So like we said earlier, you're the head coach of your alma mater at Anderson High School. So it's pretty awesome. We got to, Steve and I obviously follow everything Anderson. And so when did, like when you were in college and not sure what the next step, when did you start thinking about, hey, I think I might want to coach?
Well, when I was, falling in a family of coaches, I think I always had that in the back of my mind. And I just didn't know what level I wanted to be at. So I wanted to play as long as I could. And I got done playing at UC and then had the chance to play professionally for a year in the United Soccer Leagues, which is still around. And it's what FC Cincinnati entered into. And so, but at that time, the money that you could make in the division I was in, my parents were kind of like, $175 a game. Is not gonna pay for your car and school loans. And so I had an opportunity straight away with Coach Basalega, who had taken over NKU a couple years before, and they were Division II, and their coach had just left, their assistant had just left to go at Xavier, and so he was looking for a coach at that time after I got done playing, and I still was finishing my 5th year of school. And so I did my 5th year that year and was the assistant for NKU.
Nice.
Oh, that's good.
And so it was a really good kind of intro, like to what I wanted to get into. Where I really liked that level, and I was actually coaching Dan and Pellizzeri. So he was a senior.
He was
So I was only a year older than like some of these guys that I was coaching, but like we had a really good year. We lost in Elite 8. We were like 22-2, and I go, man, like I want to do this all the time. But I needed more experience, and so I did a volunteer assistant year at UC. So I went back there. So I coached there, but soccer is different than basketball and football in like sort of the job opportunities. Like football has a lot of grad assistant jobs, and soccer has that, but usually in Division III. 3. And so I was going I had some opportunities to go to some Division 3 schools, but it wasn't going to pay for what I needed to be able to do to cover, as I said, some of the cost of school and stuff. So at the year that I was a volunteer assistant at UC, Mike Slemons, who had been coaching with my dad for the girls, he stepped down because he was getting really busy with work and his kids were growing up. And so kind of 2 weeks into the season, my dad goes, well, do you want to help? For the, season to go through, because we need somebody. And I go, well, let me check with the guys at UC, because I was there 8 to 8 every day. I was trying to make my way as a college coach. Get the ideas of the recruiting, watching film, setting up practices with them and stuff, and just trying to soak up as much. And then I jumped into the high school game with them, with my dad and the girls, and I really enjoyed it because you were in college. You're not able to be with the players that much, really. You kind of you get practice, you kind of understand, but in high school you can see them more. Right. And I feel like sometimes have more impact sometimes in their development. Where college, you really enjoy. I think match day, I really enjoy practice, and you're working with mature guys, but then after 2 hours you don't see them all the time. Correct. And so that was the hard part for me. And so I go, the high school game, I can work with these players and I think make an impact. And so I got into coaching in high school, and then I did that for the next 5 years with my dad. And then was coaching club and working at Anderson and just doing a number of different jobs so I could still do coaching, which was my main passion. And now I think I'm going into year 17 that I've been coaching.
That's crazy.
And so it piles up because you just go from one game to the next, or one recruiting event to the next, and you just go.
Well, Sam, you're going to find out once you get older. You're just going to say, "Oh my gosh, the year!" You just, I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. I mean, we're just talking about it here before we get on here. But do you feel Frank Brandy coaching at Anderson, coaching his alma mater, coaching basketball, your family history at Anderson, do you feel any of that pressure at all? To me, I would be stressed to the max.
Well, it's because you have so much pride.
You have pride, but do you kind of sometimes feel that, or?
Where you definitely, the results hit home more, and you're trying to make sure that the players care, or kind of know how much you care, and try to drive that through, because you're representing your school, and it's still a really special thing, which I really enjoy. The high school game that you can't get in club or in some other areas is that you don't get a chance to get your entire community come into a game, or a Turpin game, or a McNick game, and there's some pressure. There's people behind you that are if you don't win, I'm gonna be annoyed, or my kid's not playing as much. But I kind of like that pressure, where I go, I want to make our program and keep that tradition of 50 years of Anderson soccer with Sully and all these other guys, my dad, where I'm I want to make sure that our program's really good for as long as
stays
possible.
On top.
And so it's fun for me.
So how excited were you? I mean, because I know I'm not going to ask the question whether or not you felt like you were ready. I'm sure you were ready for the job, but how excited were you, to Danny's point of getting a job? Because you probably could have got a job anywhere. You probably could have got a head job, at any other high school. And when this came available, how excited were you?
Well, I'd had some interviews in some different places, like Cincy State, and then the program dropped.
Everything.
They were really good. Cincy State was really good.
And then I think I'd interviewed at St. Ursula for their girls' job, and they decided to go back to a previous coach. And so I was I'm just going to keep concentrating, because I was coaching club all the time. And so I had really good players that I was helping get to college and things. But high school, once again, different, because you're not worried about that. getting college players out of high school like games doesn't happen as much. It's because the seasons are the same.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to get college coaches like football and basketball more because there's not sometimes as much conflict, or they can send another coach. But Pat Thatcher actually contacted me when the job opened.
Okay.
And at that time, and then he goes, hey, he was a strength coach still, and he goes, hey, like, I've seen what you've done, like coaching the girls, and you played here. You're always around. You're still, because I would still go up and work out and things, and he's like, you need to go and apply. Yeah. And I went in and did my interview with Newt and a couple other people, and then got the job, and was fortunate that we had a really good returning group of players like my first year.
Okay.
Because they had lost in the regional final the year before.
Wow.
So I think they had built it back up. Okay. And then it was like, okay, like we have some good pieces, and now you just have to get used to how I do things.
Yeah. Let me ask you, you still practice with the guys?
I do sometimes.
Do you?
I don't do as much. I try not. You probably, like, you said you coached like right when you got out, like, and sometimes the best thing you can do is you don't know maybe enough how to like put your plan or translate it to the player, and so sometimes plans, like, you show it is the best way you can do it when you're younger. And I used to do that more. Now I kind of go like, I want to be an expert at how I can put together a plan, and so that I don't have to jump in, and so I want things to flow and get what I want out of it, and so rarely do I do it now, because unless I sometimes feel like maybe I need to show it, but you start getting older, and I go like, I can't get hurt.
Can't do that now.
Get injured.
Well, yeah, because I stopped demonstrating a long time ago, fear of injury. But as later years I was demonstrating, but the bigger problem was I was getting winded. so
that looks bad.
I would look at my assistant Doug. I'm like, take the practice because I'm winded. All right, so let's get on to your family, because I want to talk about.
Hold on, real quick before we get into just real quick. Let's get into his team about this year. So his expectations for this year's team. So I wanted to get into that real quick before we jump to that. So you had a team last year, I believe I think Centerville's our nemesis. I think maybe. I think that we lost
it's
them
always
again.
Been.
So talk a little bit about the expectations of your team this year.
So the past 2 years we probably had as good a 2-year run as in the history of the program. I think we were 33-3-3.
Wow.
And so we won a district title the year before, and then we lost in the district final last year. And a team, I thought we had injury to senior AJ Gould, and I thought our team could go to a state semifinal where we had that good a talent, but that hurt at that time. And so we scored, I think, more goals than almost any team in the history in one season last year. So we got to replace goals. Bennett Painter was an All-American for us last year, and he's now going to play at Bowling Green. So he scored 28 goals.
Wow.
We had Sam Hughes, who both of them were 2 All-State players, which I think was the first time we had 2 All-State players in the same year in a while in our program. And so I think he ended up with 14 goals or something. We had Ethan Hensley scored a bunch of goals. So that's kind of the fun part for me is how do we change the pieces to get, because you got to score goals to win games, and we're always trying to win the match. So for me, we don't want to give up that many goals, but ultimately, if you want to do well, you got to score. And so we'll be working on that in the next few weeks in the build up to our season. And we have some guys that can do that, but we have returning players. Alex Dorco, who's an all-city player last year.
Dorco,
what an athlete he is.
Yeah, and so Alex will be counted on a lot. We have Jason Theismann, who really strong kid, who will be a 4-year varsity starter this year, coming back. And so we have some guys that I think can really drive us on. It'll just be a matter of getting our younger players or players to take bigger roles, just like in any team
exciting.
or sport. So
I think you can get Andy Dorco might even take a challenge and go out there and still want to play with the guys. I know he would take that challenge.
He could play fullback.
He could definitely do that. He would.
Well, I was driving over here and I saw he and Andrea walking, and our alumni game's this Saturday, and he goes, "I got 2 minutes for you. I got 2 minutes." I said, "Well, I got a shirt." I was like, "We'll get you in, Andy, because
that's funny."
Because I know he was a great player.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and so I'm looking forward to the year, and I think we can do pretty well. So
good.
That's great.
That's good. That's good.
No surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be great to watch and follow.
All right, so let's get into your family. Obviously, Danny and I know, but we want you to share your experiences start off with your grandpa, who's a legend at Anderson, and I mean, he was an idol of ours.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He was athletic director, and in fact, when I was at Air, he was my gym teacher, and he was real good friends with my dad, and just a legend. And I actually think, Charles Brown started, sports. You could say that from when the school started, but it really started for me. I mean, for a lot of people with Joe Miller.
I agree.
And just the spirit and the toughness and everything that goes along with that, with the Joe Miller. So talk a little bit about your grandpa and what he has meant to you.
So my grandpa, I think he got to Anderson 1958, I want to say, when he started teaching and coaching in the district, and then became athletic director. And I think the one thing that I always learned from him, and like as far as how he went about, what he did as an AD was he wanted every sport to be good at Anderson. And I think he drove that on, where it was like, hey, we're getting the best equipment. We're going to make sure you have what you need, so that every sport we're going to get top coaches and top people to be involved. And I think that drove the school a lot, where it was like swimming was good, football won when he was there. Baseball had so many people that have been on this podcast I think
went through with your dad, went through with your grandpa.
Where they were the beneficiaries of him pushing.
You got that right.
Hey, we're not just a baseball school, because he grew up playing all kinds of sports, and so for him, he was just going, he started the soccer program. So I kind of feel a link always to him, because my dad played. Wrestled and played baseball, and then he broke his leg. And so they had just started the soccer program, and so my dad started playing soccer, and there would have been no soccer program if my grandpa hadn't have pushed that, or
That's
saw
incredible.
Wow, it's a good story.
Saw it coming through. And so and he coached a bunch of different sports. I think he coached the golf team for a year. Whatever he had to do to make sure Anderson sports were good, he was going to do that. So he was really special to me, because I used to hang out with him quite often, where we would go to UC games, basketball, football, baseball. And so I grew up down in Clifton, going to games with him, and my dad. And so those were the best times. And it was funny, because it got to a point where he got a little older, and he'd want to go, but then he'd get to about halftime and be like, all right, I think I'm good. And I'd be like, Papa, it's halftime, UC Pitt, it's a top 10 game. Can we stay for at least in the fourth quarter? It's no, I need some White Castle, and I need just want to head home and beat the traffic. And he did that for another game. I forget. It was UC Houston, and I think it was a Minner era, and they were down close to 30 points or something, and we left, and he
came back and won.
And
oh my gosh,
he got a flat tire, so we're hearing the roar from Nipper as we're getting the tire changed, and I'm but he was awesome. He I think he kind of, his toughness drove sort of my dad, and so I broke my nose the second game of my sophomore year, playing against Sycamore, where I went up for a header, and a guy backed into me, and so it was all swollen. But we played McNick on the Saturday, so I broke it on a Thursday, and and so I really wanted to play in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that Anderson McNick game back up.
Oh yeah, it was always big.
Yeah, like I mean, it was something I was like, man, I don't want to miss the game, but I'm not supposed to play for 3 weeks. That's what they told me.
Yeah.
And my grandpa showed up. My dad, he showed up. He drove over to the house and was like, it kind of looked at me and goes, I don't think it can get any more broke.
That's good reasoning right there.
That's awesome.
And so because he broke his 5 times because
football, they probably didn't have the mask then.
They didn't at UC, and so we have all these old pictures of him playing at UC with no face mask, and he's fullback and linebacker. And I think that was just that I think helped me too, because it was like you can play through anything. Like if he's playing with a busted nose, and so I played that night and my mom didn't know, and so she showed up to the game thinking I'm going to be on the sideline.
Yeah, and you were out there.
She was so mad, and my dad was like, well, his grandpa told him he could play. It wasn't
blaming on grandpa.
That's right. So yeah, just like so many stories like that I hear coaching from him, like, and he loved just coming to games and watching.
Well, it's so well respected and loved.
He is, and I was glad that I was a part of this when your grandpa was getting at that age. But we did a Joe Miller night, and it was a night I'll never forget, and it was really, really cool. And we've got it on YouTube of John interviewing, because John always hung around at your house with your dad, and your grandpa remembered specifically the game in 1961 when they won a championship, and he was going through and he named who kicked,
my gosh.
And it was just so cool to hear your grandpa talk about how proud he was of not just the football program, but just of Anderson in general. So that was kind of a cool moment for me. Just I knew your dad when I was obviously in high school, but then also to be a part of that night that we did, I think that was a really pretty cool night.
Well, you guys set up a lot of good events, like, and just like the event for the team that we did a year or two ago. That won, and he I think that was another thing, like he remembered like everybody, and it was just and for me as a coach, I kind of go, not everybody's gonna like what I do, but like I love seeing guys come back and at least want to be with their teammates, where we build something that they want to come back and like be around. And I think that's what, like, my dad used to love it too, like where he'd see these guys and he'd be in the like supermarket, and he's like, my grandpa's 85 and he sees somebody that's like 70 and they're going like, oh yeah, like there's Joe Miller played for him or whatever. And so that was something that he was just awesome to be around all the time.
And then you follow up with that with being able to follow and hang with your dad in a sport you love, and learn everything that you could to where you're at right now.
Well, and so and my dad coached basketball too, and so like that was like fall and winter, I was on the sidelines at his games all the time. And so when he was at Batavia, and then when he was there for almost 10 years. And so I kind of grew up going and watching those games where they were in the NBC, and they would play Summit and Seven Hills and College Hill and stuff. And like, so, I used to tag along with him all the time and kind of see where he was a little bit different than me, where I had to kind of grow into like where his motivation and aggressiveness, and people go, oh, like I know your dad's in the building because I can hear him, like because he's so loud. But I could, after a while as a coach and as a player, I kind of understood where he was like, hey, you gotta have an urgency to like go and play, like, and be confident. And if you're not going to show up that way to like go and be the best player like on the field, then you don't need to show up. And I think I got that a lot from those two, where it was just like, hey, if you're going to do anything, like go put in the work. And he used to tell me something that I always still sticks with me, where he goes, being good's lonely. Like, and I grew up where I was in that yard by myself all the time, or shooting a basketball. Whereas I was going, I don't need anybody else to help me be good. Like, I'm gonna make sure that I make myself better. And those two guys like did that all the time, and that I learned that from them, because they were just going like, I'm not gonna go out and shoot with you. I'm tired. Like, I've been working all day. Like, if you want to be good, like you go do it.
Do it.
You know, I got to tell you this other real quick story about your grandpa. I have my family's from Norwood, and I've got a couple friends that played football that I used to work with that played football at Norwood, and your grandpa coached at Norwood. And
that's right.
And that's all they talked about was they loved playing for Joe Miller. So not only at Anderson, but other places that he's been, he's had a big influence. I mean, my one friend of mine that I used to work with glowingly talked about your grandpa, and that's kind of cool to hear that as well, because really we knew what it was like. But I got for someone else to experience that.
I got to be honest with you. I was at those games, and it was extremely odd to see Joe Miller Norwood, anything but an Anderson, see him across the field.
No, I totally agree.
That's not right. It just doesn't look right.
But it's always too cool. Is you look over here, and there he is down at the bottom of that. You know, see his name down there on that chart. We got the Anderson complete scores from like 47 to what is it, 80 something. And so you know what's going to be really cool is I haven't even told you this yet, Steve. Is I finally finished. I've been working my butt off for like I don't know how long. We're missing some scores. I've got every single score, even back when they were playing 6-man football, the opponents, who they've beaten. So I'm going to have all the total records, and I'll be able to hopefully before the first game for Anderson. I'm going to have how many wins we are and how many wins we are away from this. So
that's a cool thing.
But I've been working my butt, either getting it from newspapers.com or classmates, or I mean, I even went over to McNixon, stole scores from there because I couldn't find them.
You couldn't find any of the Chieftain?
No, not the Chieftain. Couldn't find any of the Chieftain. No, but that's cool that it's doing that, and you know, just your name and everything. And your dad is awesome. I love your dad. We've had, you know, your dad's we had on our show talking about Anderson football. We've had your dad on about that too. So let's kind of try to wrap this up, and let's talk about some of your favorite memories. I think you might have hit on a couple of them already, but let's talk about your favorite memory in high school and then college, and then maybe as a teacher or coach.
I have a good memory, so it's hard. But I mean, I think probably when we winning a championship in soccer and basketball, like the league, being able to do that. So I won in 2 different sports was
that's rare.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because that was mainly for me, because my stats were never going to show through, but being on winning teams was what I was always wanting to do. And so I think like when we won the title, I think it was at Mason that night. And then soccer one year when we tied Turpin that night. Those were good memories. I want, like, as far as personal, like I scored a goal against Loveland. I think I had like a free kick from probably 35 yards out, where I put it like top corner. And I think I still had the video, but it was like it was like a personal one, because like just for me, I'd been working in the yard on that for like 4 years. And then it shows up in like one play.
There it is.
So it's like, and so that felt really good. High school, college, we had so many good. They talked about when we beat St. Louis and they were 4th in the country. I scored the winner up at Marquette. I had scored against Louisville and Providence a couple times, and so, but winning the title, we won the Big East at Villanova in overtime.
Nice.
Playing in NCAA tournaments, those were probably the best.
Sure.
But, kind of with my dad, my grandpa, probably the proudest I was when I got to captain the team. For the last 2 years I was there, because they both captained.
Wow, that's
UC,
awesome.
So we had 3 generations of captains.
That is cool.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
That is too cool.
So that was probably my proudest when my junior year, and because I wasn't expecting it, but I was kind of one of the older guys on that team, and so then that was
no surprise.
That's pretty
no surprise.
But and then coaching, we've had some amazing games, and really good players that I've been fortunate to have over the past 5 years, going to 6 years. But we beat Beaver Creek when they were defending state champions, and my first year to win a district title. that was an amazing game. And then we had Brad Sullivan's son, Ryan, playing for me, and he was a freshman. He was about
little guy.
Yeah, he was like about 5'6". And, but we won at the end. Turpin games are always exciting. But yeah, winning 2 district championships, and we've won the league the last 2 years. It's like you kind of are building your program to be able to do that.
That's great.
And so those are kind of my most proud moments so far, and we're hoping that we can continue to do those things. So.
Well, I mean,
those are some pretty impressive memories.
I mean, you know how the football team has, the big thing, tradition continues, things like that. I mean, think about what you've done, Sam, as a player and as a coach, going back to when Sully was coaching. I mean, just the tradition has completely continued, and trying to raise it even to a new level.
Well, and the same in all our sport. I mean, same as football. Like, we're not a big school, and so it's like you have to use things like that.
Absolutely.
Like I think that sets Anderson apart from other schools is how much people care about what went before them, and making sure people know that, because it's like you're in a long line of great players, great coaches. Like it should mean a lot to you to go and play there, and so like that's what we try to always hit home is like, look, you're not just playing for, like, when we have our alumni event.
I love it.
Same as you guys for football.
I love it.
It's like we'll have 30, 40 guys show up, and I just want them to come and like the younger guys to watch, because I go, these guys, like, you don't even know how good some of the players were, and how much time and effort they put into being good. So, so
that's awesome. One thing we forgot to ask about, we did his dad and that, but I think the man here just had a baby. So we didn't even talk about it. So get into a little bit about that. I think that just happened here recently.
Yeah. So Megan and I, we've been together for going on 4 years, but we had a baby girl last year, Mia. So she's going on 17 months, and then we just had Beckham.
Beckham.
Yeah.
I wonder. Maybe a soccer.
She actually came to me with it because I was like, look, I don't want to put too much pressure. I like the name Mia, and I had met Mia Hamm a long time ago. But I was like, I just like the name. I'm not gonna. But she's like, oh, you want that name? I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to do, great.
Well, congratulations, Sam. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we actually, the middle name is Quentin, because I don't think a lot of people know my grandpa Joe wasn't his name.
Right.
So it was Quentin Delbert Miller.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. So but everybody just called him Joe. So he changed it to Joseph Quentin Delbert. So we have Beckham Quentin Miller.
That's awesome.
Your cousin, I think it's Scotty Hill.
Yep.
He had told me that.
Yeah.
When I coached him, 20 years ago.
You know what? I wonder if I could, because what I'm going to try to do here this football season is do, on this date in history or some facts and say, hey, how many wins does Anderson have against Turpin?
Yeah.
And I want to say, does anybody know who? Like Joe Millersville?
We'll have a gift card.
Right. You can't help.
That's awesome. That'd be a better one than, like, I'd get stories where my dad would tell, like, him when he was coaching, where somebody forgot their helmet one time, and you can't do this today, of course, but he goes, well, we don't have another one for you today. So he took a roll of tape and he put the tape. You're good to go. So there you go. You can still play today. So you might remember your helmet from that.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, but
I freaking love it.
Yeah, you can't really do that today.
No, that's a great story. I love it. But Sam, we really appreciate it. With the new baby and all that, and with soccer getting ready to start, and obviously good luck this season. We're going to be rooting and cheering for you, and but we appreciate you taking the time. I know it's pretty crazy right now, but thanks for joining us.
Well, I appreciate it, and like I said, I watch all the time because as we just talked about, I love connecting the dots of Anderson athletics, and having my family been around a long time, but there's a lot of people that are on here that I didn't know or didn't see, and so I love being able to hear their stories, and so it was fun, and keep doing your thing because I really enjoy it.
I appreciate that. That's great. Thanks. We appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So for Dan Albers and Steve Ellis and Sam Miller, you've been listening to This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you guys next week.